Hi, it's Nancy, welcoming you to Garden Scroll. Today is the first day of April, and I came outside this morning. It's a beautiful morning. We had a little shower last night. The temperature is wonderful, and it's just practically perfect. And I was thinking about trying to find a good balance between enjoying the garden like I am right this minute and working the garden. And truthfully, it has been more work, maybe all work and no play sometimes, but I want to find that balance if I can. I really do, where I can just totally enjoy the garden and still do the work that's taken, because you're not going to enjoy a garden if you don't take care of it, because it just takes constant care. I always compare it to having a yard full of 2-year-olds, because they're smart as a whip. They're learning everything, they're doing everything, they're sure that they can do it all on their own, and they practically can. They can. But then if you leave them, that's not good. They're not going to make it. They're going to fall into something that they need your help with. You know, do you remember the old, I haven't heard it in a long time, but they used to say, what is the most important thing in a garden? And the answer was the footsteps of the gardener. Just like adults are the most important thing, of course, outside of God and Jesus Christ, but they are the most important thing to the development of a child. And this garden needs the gardener, and it needs a gardener that can get the job done. Sometimes I'm slacking off in that department, and not because I'm not trying, but just because I can't really get it all done. Speaking of getting it all done, look at this. Everywhere I look, there's places begging to be filled with flowers, and I want to do it. I'm not quite ready for that job yet, though. Well, in my heart I am, but I know that there's other jobs that need to be done. I want to divide some of these sedum and put them in other places. Look at all these little seedlings coming up, and I think these are probably petunias. They possibly could be that some of them are zinnias, but I will leave some of these. Of course, these will have to be thinned. Sometimes I can actually move them like a day, like today would be perfect for that, but these are not quite big enough. Definitely not big enough to go ahead and pull up out of the ground and put in another spot. But I want to do some of that at some point, and I want to plant some seeds. I still have not planted these little plants that I purchased, but I'm still trying to find a place that I want to put them. I think I've picked out a spot for this little hydrangea, maybe. And I'll probably put these in a pot somewhere. I want to get one that's deep enough that they'll have a good chance to live, and where they get sunlight but also shade, because they don't like our Oklahoma heat. They just can't hardly stand it, and therefore I know they're kin to me. And I still have little pots that I've already planned on getting fixed, and like these 3 right here. Of course, I've told you I did fix this one up, but the other 2 in that little hanging down under pot, I still want to get something in those. I'm still thinking about using succulents all over the garden, except for a couple of areas where I will fill up with the pretty annuals and the beautiful celosia. I want some celosia too, but I'm thinking coleus. The beautiful coleus with many, many colors don't even have to have a flower, because their foliage is as colorful and beautiful as any flower. I roamed around out here a bit yesterday on Easter Day, and it was wonderful. Oh look, we were sitting here the day before Easter. Let me see if I can get this from the other side where it's not quite so dark. But actually we were sitting in this little swing right here, my husband and I, and our daughter called, so we were all three together there for a minute. And while we were, a cardinal couple, a pair, both the bright red and the pretty little tan with red and yellow on it, they just came and flew right in this beautiful big fluffy blooms of a cherry tree. It was such a sight, and I had my camera with me, and of course I missed the shot. Oh, I would have loved to have that shot, but maybe we'll try again another time. I know what they're coming for. They're coming for the seeds that I put in this little bird feeder. Can you see the rain droplets on this little sedum? Isn't that pretty? And isn't that a pretty contrasting color to this green with these little dark or kind of purple hue on the sedum? This is that one little basket that I filled with just the clippings of a sedum, and we've been lucky enough to have a little bit of rain and cooler weather without it being too cold, and they're just doing great so far. Of course I'll be anxious for this little clematis to bloom. Isn't that just arranged so prettily, how God did that? You can tell those buds when they open up. This is going to be a beautiful picture. Can you see the rain droplets on the sedum? I'm not sure if you can when I'm out here trying to get it for you, but maybe you'll be able to. I still need to get a vision for this little pot, what I'm going to put in it, because I love it when it's just full of all kinds of annuals and textures of plants and beautiful colors, the coleus and everything. And I could put some of those in here because I'm planning on watering this little area regularly every day if I can. That's just the plan, and that's, you know, you just have to do what you have to do to keep the garden going, and it does take a lot of time, and it keeps you from doing a lot of other things. But not only is it in my heart to do it, I actually feel called of the Lord to do it. So he just pulls me out here, especially on days like today. Now in the summertime, I think he has to pull a little harder, but I'm trying to obey. So this little pot right here will be close to where I plan on watering anyway, so I'm not sure though what I'm going to do with it because it doesn't hold a lot of water, and I'm thinking I could maybe fix a pretty little group of sedums in this that would look just as pretty as the pretty annuals, or maybe almost, but they might last a whole lot longer and be prettier longer. Like maybe these over here, you know, I've already showed these to you, but I'll show them to you again because I filled this one out, and you can tell which part of it came back from last year and which part of it I had other annuals in. And this time I just went ahead and put little clippings of this one in with it, and all the way around it it's got sedum in there. So if that will do as well as this one, next spring when we come out, we won't have to do anything to this little pot except looking at it and admire it. Same with this one here, although I am going to put a little bit more right back in the back of this one, so the whole thing will be filled out and pretty. At least that's my plan. And it looks like I need just a little bit more of something right here on this side of this pot. And you know, I'm thinking that I think this other yarrow is white, the ballerina yarrow. This is one of the thundercloud sedum. All of this is perennial and will come back. And I'm thinking that maybe I'll put a little piece of that red yarrow beside it, and that might just draw your attention to it even more. And I want to see this little hardy geranium. There used to be one under each pot, and they were just growing up so much that they were actually cover up these little fairies on top of the pot stands. And I didn't really like them to be covered up, but that wasn't that much of a problem because you can always clip them down around the fairies. But for some reason, I think it's because I had a mole or a vole or some other rodent out here, and it's, look how lush it is on this side, and then over here there's nothing, and that's of course where the mole was. But maybe before he got to them, he may have already taken these out. But that's another thing I want to do, is get some of my hardy geranium, divide it, and put little pieces under each of these so that they'll grow back there again. Some of my friends from church came out for a few minutes after church yesterday, and I think they enjoyed the garden, and I totally enjoyed showing it to them because it was all cleaned out and it just needed someone to admire it. You know, that's how we are when we get all dressed up. It's just not the same if there's not someone there to say, wow, or, oh, you look nice, or something. I imagine that my little sedum loved that little shower. We didn't get a lot, but every little bit helps when you're starting out, you know. And these little sedum are totally just starting, but I'm hoping they'll look as lush as this side. Well, actually, as it did before I took the little clippings out of it and put them on the other side and on the top of this one. And even as scraggly as it is, Melissa liked this little plant. It did show off enough that it caught her eye. And so my plan is, and I hope it will work, is after it quits blooming this time, I'm going to trim it way down, and hopefully it won't be all dead looking next spring, but it'll be ready to come out, thicken up, and just put on lots of gorgeous little blooms. Another thing, Melissa pointed out that I have buds on my roses, which I had not even noticed that. I did know that the peonies and the roses seem to bloom around the same time. And I knew that the peonies have, a lot of them have buds on them, like this lovely little peony here. And actually many of them, this one hasn't yet, it's still quite small. That's most likely one that I transplanted there last year. It takes them a while. Sometimes it takes them 3 to 4 years to get going good, so don't give up on them. And here's another couple of little plants that I had to replant for the same reason that I told you earlier, because moles or voles, they just came right down this whole row actually, and they didn't take them all out, thank God. They did take a lot of them out, and I've replaced them and started again. I finally figured out to just take some, because this is has been for a while a bad area for most. I get them where they go away and then they just come back here to this area. But I figured out that I can just take a little clipping from one of my other plants and put it over here, and that way if I lose them, I've already got another one of it, and it's not so hard to lose one that you have some more of. It's still hard because you know you want it to be lush and beautiful and blooming, but it's better, much better. And I'm just now noticing that this little blue flax has buds on it too. That's the exciting fun things about spring too. And you can see that this grass is coming back. It's beginning to unfurl its little green leaves. This blue flax is the one I planted from seed last year, and then I transplanted it to this area once it got big enough in the fall. Well, there was still time for it to put its root down, and evidently it's doing good. I'll want to fix this little pot up really pretty, but isn't it great when your before shot looks like this? I mean, I know there's still lots of area for plants to go in with it, but it's not just empty with this pretty seed in the back. Of course, I still can't come outside without finding weeds and little seedling trees and grass. See if I can get that one up without breaking it off. Yep, I got it. And I think this is a weed too. I might as well go ahead and pull it up. And I hate to see these. They may look cute to you, but if you have them killing your plants, you know they're not cute. And I need to put dirt in or soil in both of these pots. I have a little in the bottom, but I'm going to fill them up, and I want mums in these. I had mums in these, and then I planted this little blue spruce sedum in it, and I'm going to use this in other places because these pots are totally falling apart. They're just so brittle, but both of them are. This is not quite as bad as the other one, but you probably couldn't pick it up by the rim without the rim coming off in your hand, which is exactly what happened to this one. So, and I think I may not put any of the blue spruce, although it looked great around the edges, but you can tell it totally took over the whole pot, which is fine too. That would be great, except that I want the mums in here. It just adds to the fall. As you fix up your gardens, you always look around, and different seasons you'll find something. This is not saying fall, or this is not saying spring like I want it to, and you'll have an idea, and that was my idea, and it looked good, and I want to keep that up. If I can just put some chrysanthemums in these, and I was thinking too that they may not live in these little pots because they didn't come back in my other pots that I had there right behind them, and I had to put them in each spring. But that's okay too if that happens, but I would love to have it where they just come right back in the pot, and they have in times past, so we will see how that will work. Look at this little peony. Buds reaching to the sky, or way toward the sky. This is a pretty little yellow ITOH. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I've been calling them ITOF, but I'm sure that's not right. But anyway, it is beautiful, but it's not doing well here. It may not be getting enough sunlight because of the shade of this little rose bush. So I would like to go ahead, even though it's so small, I hate to take a piece of it out of there, but I think that would be the thing to do, is to take some of it out and start it in another area, and that way if I lose this one, I'll still have one. You'll want to think about things like that too, that you will learn if you're growing a garden. Excuse me. And I've had many people tell me they're going to have a garden just like mine someday, which is so sweet. But that when you do that, you'll learn, and some things you'll learn the hard way. But just keep going, because once you learn, you can work with that, and you'll know that you just want, actually you want two of everything. If you can have it, just in case something happens to one of them. And as I'm looking right across over here, I'm thinking, this little pot right here might be a good candidate for that blue spruce sedum, and then it can hang over the edges, and I think that will be pretty. More of the lilac bush is blooming, and I had my husband to chop this down really low, so I mean it would be a really tall plant, I'm sure, but I don't want it to be. I just want it like this. If I can keep it like this, that would be great, because I want to be able to look from my kitchen window and not only see this, but also to see back behind it what's going on, what's blooming. And if you're thinking you don't have much time to be in the kitchen, well, you're right, because I don't. I do not cook like I used to at all, but I do still do some cooking, and I do still need to be in the kitchen. But it's a lot more fun when what am I going to say? When you get old and you can't hardly do anything without hurting terrible, and you can't move, you lost all your agility. No, I'm not going to say that. But it is a lot more fun when you do have time to do the things you want a little bit, rather than what you just have to do because it's your job. And that I'm grateful for the times that I did my job and raised my family. But I'm also grateful for this time when I can get out in the garden and just enjoy it. And I hope you're enjoying it with me. It's April the 4th, and our little peach tree has lost all of its blossoms. But of course, the redbud tree is pretty much in its full glory right now. It will be losing those little blooms soon, and I've been very impressed with our small cherry tree and its beautiful white blooms. They've been so big and fluffy, and I've enjoyed them so much, but you can tell they're going away too. That's just the way life is. This beauty just doesn't stay long, but that does not make it any less wonderful just to have this in the springtime. And not a lot else has bloomed in the garden, but I had to go out and show my husband this morning our first clematis bloom. So I'm taking you there now. And here it is. What a beautiful way to celebrate a beautiful day. We've had 3 days of cool winds, quite strong winds. I've worked quite a lot in the garden actually, but today I'm totally enjoying working in the garden because the weather is so beautiful. I love these clematis, and probably every other clematis there is. So I have been working on where all this is thick and looking great, but all around this side of it was not, and we've had some kind of a underground rodent that took it out, most all of it. This even looks pretty pathetic, but it's still there, and I think it'll come on out from that. And I just put these here. You can see those little starts I've got everywhere, and I'm hoping this isn't going to be a mistake, because it does spread pretty readily, but I want it to spread under this picnic table, and it's a perennial dianthus. When it blooms, it smells wonderful. I can just imagine sitting out here with a cup of coffee or a glass of tea, which I rarely get to do, you know that, but maybe I'll get a chance to, and it will smell heavenly. My little golden carrier bush did put on quite a few pretty blooms, so my plan is definitely to take this down really low after it finishes blooming, so that hopefully it'll be healthy and ready to it will grow quite a bit during the season, and then next spring maybe it won't have a bunch of dead pieces that I have to clip out to the point that it's gonna make it scraggly. Hopefully it'll be lush and beautiful next year. I have a few iris blooms beginning to open and several iris buds. I can find that one for you. I also put a little sedum or spurge, I'm not sure which this is called, but I like it, and I thought this pretty kind of a yellow-green color would kind of match my creeping Jenny and kind of break up just the other colors of green here. And you will notice that I also had this one finished, but I did go ahead and finish the other two as far as putting clippings in them. And then also I took these are the standard size sedum. I think they're Autumn Joy, but they could be a different one. But this one I took out of those tiny little pots, which of course they weren't doing good in them, but I just wanted a little speck of green. But I thought, you know, I might as well take those out and put them somewhere they can actually grow, and then put something smaller that'll be much better suited for the small pots and the little balance containers in the front. So I'm letting this one just kind of sit here, this little down under pot, and it's called a down under pot because actually once it gets its root down good where it's filling that out and holding the dirt in, I will turn it up the other way and hang it in a spot where it can hang down. So I've gone to the front, and these are the little balance pots I was telling you about. They look so much better. I'm glad I finally found the time and got that done. I've actually thought of it for quite some time, but you know, you just have to prioritize, and these just got down to the bottom somewhere. But one thing, spring has came. We had that fall spring, and then spring was literally right behind it. It was a little bit slower than we maybe had thought because we were into spring mode, but it was so nice, and I even enjoyed the cooler days because I actually finally got some things done inside the home, which needed it desperately. And I wanted to show you this little, first look at this peony. It's almost ready to bud and so big and pretty, and those buds are just so big and beautiful. But this is what I was going for, this little red tulip over here, which most of my tulips are gone due to underground rodents, but I had to come out and show this to my husband when it was just beginning to unfurl and just was a big old blob of red sitting on top of green, but it's pretty much totally fully opened today. You will notice that all of the yellow, practically all of the yellow, is off of the forsythia bushes. All of the red is off of the quince bush, and all of the pink practically is off of the flowering almond. So they didn't last long, but weren't they gorgeous when they were in bloom, telling us spring is here. And then this is a Josie reblooming lilac, so it's putting us on some bloom now. I'm also seeing that my perennial alyssum is beginning to bloom. Also, some of my plants that I ordered came in. These are mostly bulbs and bare roots, so I'm going to finish getting those taken care of today. At least that's my plan. And I did plant some of those while it was windy out here. And the lamium is still opening up more of its pretty yellow blooms. I also did divide my hardy geranium from this spot and put a little piece of it under this little fairy and another piece of it under this little fairy. So hopefully I'll have hardy geranium under both of these, and they'll actually come and cover up the whole little plant stand, and I'll probably have to trim them off from the little fairies at the top. And that's I'm saying that because that happened before, and I'm expecting it to happen again, but it did not happen last year, and I'm thinking that perhaps these summer allium may have choked them out. So I don't know if I want to leave those there, but they are very pretty there, so I'm not ready to give up on that yet. I actually took a little clump of it, and I'm going to put this in different areas. I'm thinking about even trying some of it in pots. If it doesn't make it, it's okay, because these proliferate, and where I do have them will make me some more. So these are kind of extras anyway, and I can, experiment with them a little bit. Actually, I'm thinking about maybe putting them in this little empty pot right here. And while I was moving dianthus to under the picnic table, I also put a couple of sprigs on either side of this little girl. She had some there in the front, but I think she just looks much better with her pot a little fuller. And when I grabbed the camera, I had gone in to get some scissors and my rooting powder, because I'm going to put a few more clippings of this little sedum into this little pot. And even if they don't make it, I'm thinking the same thing, that I'll still have another spot to get me some to put back in here next year. But this one came back from last year. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.